Travis Wingate, so still have last night's video to put up. But yeah, I saw a Trevor Noah clip as I was going to go check my account, but I've decided to do this video. So I'm fighting off a sneeze. Normally I blow 50 times. And it was on, why is the alt-right so angry? And I've already done this video beating around the bush. But now that it's out and exposed, let's talk about it. Nazi Germany, which, yes, this ties into the church, were the ones who ordered their young men not to masturbate. And in so doing, it created an internal stress, pressure, and resulted in anger manifestations. And as a result, the guilt and the shame allowed for the Germans, the Nazis, to control the young men, get them to do what they wanted. It's a tactic used in Russia, but not for masturbation, for what's called honey traps, where Russians will send women and they get you to let them in, and boom, you now have evidence of involvement with prostitutes. As Russia is big on having recordings, video cameras, audios, etc., all over Russia to get everybody compromised to the Russians. And so honey traps are one of the methods that they use, raising the girls to use sex as a weapon. And so Russians are not as angry as a result. What is interesting is that, yeah, these alt-right white supremacist groups likewise shame their followers from masturbation. And as a child, growing up among my peers, before I even knew what it was, my peers were already asking me if I pee straight or if it sprays out. And what made it worse was that my peers were trying to peer pressure me into raping women rather than masturbating. And all kinds of horrific things to do to women rather than masturbating. The church likewise teaches abstinence only Scott came out in the 80s and condemned masturbation. And so the feelings of guilt and shame, sinfulness would come upon Mormon men as a result of that. And in so doing, the church can then control more easily men's behaviors and actions. And why are Mormon men angry at me? Why are Mormon men getting so triggered? Why is there so high of rape cases in Utah? Why are there so much domestic violence in Utah? And it's because of the sexual repression, which I've already been talking about. The common use among religion, even in the Mormon Church, though the Mormon Church doesn't really apologize with this scripture, it's more of Christian religions that do instead. But if any Mormon were to stumble across it, they go, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And that's the story of Tamar. It's the one where even the Jews are afraid to read. If you are familiar with Spencer W. Kimball, he talked about how he stapled shut the Songs of Solomon because it's uninspired. And so for the Jews, it's I believe it's 48 in Genesis. Let's check it. But the passage is essential because she eventually hooks up with Judah, and thus the reason for its importance in the Torah. 48. Jacob tells, no, it is not 48. 47. No. 6. No. 5. Am I going the wrong way? Yes. No. Joseph, your brother, sold in Egypt. Okay. So let's go to 42. No. 40. Okay, so this is all Joseph stuff. Let's try 38. Judah has 3 sons by a Canaanite woman. Tamar, yeah. James Baker and I tried hard, it's 38, to get Bruce R. McConkey's chapter heading removed that says, as a harlot. She's not a harlot. She's following the commandments of the Lord. So for Bruce R. McConkie and the church to call her a whore is inappropriate. But nonetheless, that's the way the church functions. And so yes, it's 38. But in there, Tamar gets married. But before she's able to consummate the marriage, her husband dies. And as is the law, the brother is now required to take care of her and have children through her for his brother. And he dies. And so the next brother, knowing of the deaths of his first two brothers, thinks that Tamar is a curse. And as a result, he then does the scripture that everybody misunderstands. Spills his seed on the ground so that he can't spill his seed into Tamar. And that's the guy's form of faking it. And so, yeah, she doesn't get pregnant. He still dies. The poor girl just wants to be obedient. Because in the ancient cultures, you're obedient by having children. And so if you're a woman and you don't have children, you're a spinster with cats, which is just a stereotype nowadays, but you were considered a menace to society. As you can't own land, you can't have a job, somebody has to take care of you. And here you are, husbandless and childless. And so you are a burden on society. Thank God we have modern day conservatism to take away children from single mothers and give them to worthy, religious white families. But yeah, then she sees Judah, and God inspires her to hook up with him. But the only way she can do it is because Judah is specifically looking for a prostitute from the temple, which gives us a dating of the Torah. It's an anachronism. And so she pretends to be a temple prostitute so that she can then entice Judah, and thus has King David and even this guy named Jesus, who fails to save the Jews as the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the great high priest, of which he is born around 2,000 years too early for the sign in the heavens of his coming. And it's interesting that the Egyptians tell their stories about masturbation, and at the same time talk about how long they are. They brag and boast about how long they are, and still, even their theologies discuss creation in terms of masturbation. For example, God so loved the world that he masturbated and created mankind. Story of Adam. Yes, it sounds phonetically the same as Adam. Isn't that interesting? But depending on the story of Adam determines the story of the biblical Adam. And they are spelled differently, but the T and the D are phonetically the same, and so it's difficult to distinguish the other unless I throw in Egyptian or biblical. But yes, Adam is also other characters in Egyptian, such as in Genesis chapter 2 verse 4. He's the earth, And these are the generations, the human offspring, is how it's supposed to be translated from Hebrew, of the heavens and the earth. Which means the heavens and the earth are not the actual sky and earth. They're human. And the genealogy that we first see after an extended creation story is Adam and Eve. With the involvement of another serpent, another snake. But the church leaders insist that it has nothing to do with sexual immorality, that Adam and Eve were specifically commanded and therefore sealed in the temple in Eden so that they can properly have sex. But, yeah, we know exactly why you're angry, Mormons. Because they're finding out that those who masturbate on a regular basis are more kind, loving to females. They're not so aggressive and mean. Now, women are weird creatures. Aren't you, women? As women fluctuate as to their interest in my videos. I guess sometimes I'm sensitive, sometimes I'm insensitive. But there are those women who want the angry, aggressive, violent man to dominate them. That fulfills their fantasies. Just as men have their fantasies. And that's where women get themselves into trouble, as men get themselves into trouble with their certain fantasies that are illegal. Women get themselves into trouble with fantasies of those who likewise commit crime against them. And of course, the peers already had that taken care of. You can't rape the willing, or you rape a woman, and during the process of the rape, she'll like it so much that she will no longer consider being raped. Those are the alt-right conservatives that I grew up with as kids. That's why I told you in the video that I'm needing to also put up with this one, is that I know how evil the conservative movement is and how much worse they're going to get. And so the church, knowing this, following the same pattern as the Nazis, because the church is fascist, they're conservative. So all of you who think they're in conspiracy with the deep state Democrats, you've not understood. The church is the deep state. They believe they come from outer space, Kolob. They have the inverted pentagram of Satan. And they've got news lawsuits involving pedophilia. Boy Scouts specifically are the most damaging to the church's reputation, as the church just skipped out on the Boy Scouts. You take care of it, we're out, have fun. Boy Scouts go bankrupt as the church continues. So again recommend following Scripture if you're religious, if you're not religious even as well, because anti-love is contrary to Bible teachings. And there may be some concern because alt-right psychologists are also causing the problem, as they likewise want their clients or potential clients to get aggressively angry and upset so that they can put them in anger management. And then they have a consistent flow of income, job security, with a whole new batch of recruits, which, that's slavery. That's why psychology is a horrifying evil. But all of their claims, as they claim they've done studies, that's all BS. They don't use hard science standard measurements. And for sexual behavior in human beings, nobody has really done it. There have been certain studies, like some universities back in the 70s were doing stuff, but for the most part, nothing's been done on it. And so I've done the videos trying to help guys and women understand men's thinking processes during their cycles, which are a lot faster than women's monthly cycles. It depends on how fast they reproduce semen. And the longer they hold off from masturbation, the more aggressive their thinking gets, the more criminal their thinking gets. And so it is safer for society if we follow Pink's advice and use our hand for the evening, as the women are just there for a drink. They're not there to hook up and go home to you for the night. And our society is designed in that manner, in which the guy is working all during the week, so he works for the weekend. Working for the weekend. But their whole concept is that Friday night, and oftentimes on Saturday nights, especially when you're a younger guy, which you can still, it is, and the psychologists throw out a whole bunch of crap. That's just a bunch of lies, saying that you'll go blind. Again, that comes from the Bible. Sodom, specifically, all false. They're designed to scare men. But men specifically wait for the weekend, and so that they specifically go to the bars or go to places where they can hook up, like at a party or whatever, so that they can indeed have sex rather than masturbate. And that's where you get date rape drugs to come in, because the women don't like you, because you're a horrible human being, because you're so mean and aggressive for not masturbating. And so you end up resorting to criminal tactics to release. And psychologists keep making it worse when they talk about how, oh, your pupils dilate when you see porn. How is that a horrible thing, to have our pupils dilated? They never explain. All they know is that, oh yeah, these guys are looking at porn, their pupils dilate. See, that's why we need real hard science, scientific studies, not this crackpot junk stuff that specifically are intended to increase clientele or help a religious organization such as the church, who paid them for this rigged study. That's what we're having to deal with a lot these days, is even news stations will purposely cover a study that was purposely paid for by a company who wanted the benefits of a study to go their way. So like for chocolate, a chocolate company, Hershey's for example, may want to pay somebody to do a study on the effects of chocolate on the human body. And so they'll come out and say, oh yeah, it's good to have a candy bar a day. Studies show that a candy bar a day, that's how it's all rigged in our system. Nobody is really doing hard science. And it gets even worse when you have polls taken about people's feelings, and then you realize it's a small sampling of the population. And yeah, that's mostly for political purposes. A news agency will do a poll specifically so that they can have a news story for the day if the news is slow. And so polls say that they hate the president. What should we do about it now that we know that the majority of the people hate the president? You know, it's rigged that way. And vice versa. Those who love the president, polls show that everybody loves you. You're the greatest ever. Yeah, yes I am. And I'm angry. And so all of that frontal lobe activation, frontal lobe activate. Have they not checked the frontal lobe during actual sex? It's so absurd how they are able to so easily deceive mankind, and especially government leaders who especially want psychologists to tell them exactly what they want to hear so that they can then make legislation accordingly. And so, yeah, our government leaders just don't care about hard science data. They're only interested in what they want to push through Congress, the various Congresses around the nation as well. Utah especially. I mean, we just barely got rid of slavery, finally. As the church came out and said, oh, yeah, we want slavery removed too. Really? Aren't you the ones who put it in there in the first place? Yes, we are. As we had a lot of Southerners recruited into our Brighamite organization, whom we sent down to Utah's Dixie. Yep. And we're all angry. And so, yes, if Mormon men are listening, which I doubt, because they're angry, you can see by the thumbs down how angry Mormon men are. Mormon women, however, are more concerned than angry. They will feel that I'm of the devil, but they don't get angry. And there's a difference. Women are upset. Well, not angry. Women don't like my videos for a different reason than men. And men are more inclined to put a thumbs down for their anger, whereas women are more inclined to put a thumbs down for it's a type of extortion. You know you do it, women. You demand that a man behaves in a certain way, and we can't do it. And so you now control us. That's sexual extortion, using sex as a weapon. As you withhold sex unless the guy conforms to your will. The first wife, who's now formally the woman called my first ex, first wife, she likewise, I've talked about how she went to her dad, as she claims, and her dad said, oh yeah, once a month, that's all a guy needs for sex. No, he doesn't. He needs it a lot more than once a month. Because my DNA says I'm descended from the Egyptians. And so, yeah, the first wife was trying to find some source to justify sexually repressing me. And so, yeah, it leads to problems in the relationship as well, in Mormon relationships, because you have men who are angry, and so they get desperate, such that they rush to marriage. That's why they breed them young here in Utah. Have a whole school for breeding them young. And that's so that men finally have an outlet. And as a result, women will notice men change after they release. You're not the same. Why aren't you aggressive and angry? We just had sex. I no longer have an interest in you. I was your sun, your moon, your guiding star, and it went away? Yeah. It went away. It'll come back. I'll see you next weekend. Just as long as you don't want to marry me. Willow, if you're unfamiliar with the best line ever in all movies. You know, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. It's better to get in a land war in Asia than to go against a Sicilian. Morons. Nope, the best line comes from Willow when she has recaptured him and he's on the back of the horse, hand, wrist tied, and she's asking, did you really mean those things you said in the tent? I guess, I don't know. I was under some kind of spell. Most brilliant line ever. And of course she's a red, more of an auburn red, but Sorsha. So yeah, there you have it. The reason why Mormon men are so angry is because the church is purposely sexually repressing them. And as much as our mothers are taught that if they catch us, that we then have to be reported to the bishop and get excommunicated or put on probation or disciplined in some form or fashion, that makes the problem worse. And so women need to understand how a man functions I did the video. It just happens. We can't stop the creation, just like women can't stop the gush. I'm hearing that commercial. It's a common commercial nowadays. And men just can't turn it off. Can't be done. And the reason why is that our bodies retaliate with anger and more sexually deviant thoughts come to mind the longer we suppress it. And nobody bothers to tell anybody, because no guy is willing to tell anybody, because they've been shamed and guilted into keeping it a secret. A dirty little secret. And so men can never not. It's just a natural thing. It produces, you release, it produces still. It's just a never-ending flow. Let it flow, let it flow. And Star Wars had some guy did a parody of that Frozen song about Vader. I just caught on to that the other day, and I was trying to figure out how can I use that in a video. Here we go. Darth Vader is considered a master, a Jedi master. There's a whole bunch of Hebrew names thrown in to Star Wars. Jedi, Judah, Amidala, Handmaiden, and so you have Darth Vader, who is Anakin Skywalker. Anakin is almost like Ashkenazi Jews. He loses on that planet of lava in that battle scene that we all witnessed in the third movie, and becomes Darth Vader. The changeover is complete because of his anger. He's no longer able to have twins with Princess Amidala, who becomes Queen Amidala. And he, as a Jedi Master, people refer to him as Master Vader. I know very well George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, who created the name, specifically had that in mind. So there you have it. And so stop the hate. Don't be fooled by people who try to suppress you sexually. The church is doing it. Psychology is doing it. Government, therefore, is doing it. The white supremacist groups, your white supremacist peers, they're all trying to peer pressure you into suppressing you. And they're wanting you to commit crimes because of it. And what we are going to witness when the physical battle gets in full fervor very soon here is the increase in rapes. So please be careful, because it's going to get ugly. The worst of human behavior is about to emerge on the earth. So which video do you want first? Do you want this one? Or do you want the wheat and the tares? I'm going to reveal a little secret exclusive for you women. When a guy, and guys are going to be angry with me over this, when a guy can't perform, it has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with your attractiveness. Again, it's not based on a woman. It's when a guy needs to go, whoever is around and will let him do it is just great for the moment. But when a man can't perform, it's usually because he's unleashed already and still needs more time to build up. And so, yeah, if you keep on working it, yeah, eventually he will go. But that's why. And also, the older a man gets, the longer it takes to regenerate. So, yeah, that's why older guys getting into their 40s start to realize, hey, I'm not able to do it as quickly the second time around as fast as I used to. So just so that you know, he not necessarily cheating, maybe but just to let you know, that's a little secret for you. And so it's a balancing act. If you want more to blow, you have to give him more time, but in giving him more time, he gets angrier and more violent. And so finding the right balance in a relationship